On this part one of our prediction episode, we bring on the head, the intelligence of our community. Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. Tom LoBianco of 24Sight. We break down everything that we can intelligently surmise about this race and who is going to win. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for November 1st. Put the costumes away because it is go time. 4 days away from election day, maybe less than that if you are listening to this over the weekend. Woosah, woosah. We are on. Gonna have a two-part episode here. I've put a lot of time and effort into thinking about what scenario I'm going to select, what I think is the most likely, but I need to bring on a coterie of experts, and here is the first, the head, the brains. It is Michael Cohen and Tom LoBianco. This is the last Friday episode before Election Day, which means I need to convene our council once again. Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. How you doing?
Good to see you.
And of course, Tom LoBianco, just a story-breaking machine at 24Sight.
Crushing it.
What's up? What is up, guys?
For your listeners, we're all wearing black, just so you know.
We are.
This is like literally Men in Black.
Well, I'll tell you what. One of these campaigns is going to die. We know that.
Justin,
that is about to happen.
It's always darkest before it goes pitch black. So
I know.
There.
One of these campaigns is about to see their last weekend, or at least without them talking more about lawyers than they are about turnout. All right, let's get our general thoughts here, and then I need your guys' opinion as I go through our 4 scenarios of how this will end, because I have to make my decision at the end of this episode as to which one I am going to go with. And I've got some thoughts.
Call it? Oh, that's great.
I'm going to have to call it. I have to call it.
All right.
You know, I've asked everybody, and so now that I've gotten on, but I wanted you guys here in the final episode. But before we do it, the big question now, and in context, we are, because everything moves fast these days, this is Tuesday the 29th at 10:17 Central Time. Kamala Harris is going to do a big closing argument at the Ellipse. Donald Trump is doing a pre-buttal to that at Mar-a-Lago as we speak, so we will not be commenting on either that or anything that happens after that. But as we speak right now, Mr. Michael Cohen, where do you see the race?
The race is tied. I was actually on yesterday with a really strong pollster in the Republican Party who has all interest whatsoever to be able to say, hey, you know what? We're winning this thing. Said it's tied. And so we really don't know. And every other, the fact that it is tied is bad for Kamala Harris because over the past few weeks, you know, she's had a lead, a fairly consistent and comfortable lead, somewhere between like 3 and 5 points, depending upon the poll.
This is nationally?
Nationally, yeah. And so it's tied. In the states, it is up or down, depending upon which poll you're looking at, but they're all within the margin of error. So the answer is it's tied. We don't know the answer to the question. I'm sure that there are reasons, and Tom and I have talked about this offline. I know, Justin, you and I have talked about this offline. Because we have a very strong group chat, by the way. The 3 of us.
We do.
Yeah, very active. But I would say this, that given where we are in the race, I would rather be Trump than I would rather be Harris at this point. He is the one who has been closing. He's had a couple of bad days, but they haven't really been his bad days. They've been sort of like other people's bad days around him. And he will easily take questions at Mar-a-Lago right now and just throw everyone else under the bus if he feels like he needs to. It's, you know, So I'm not concerned about that. What I am,
The Trump campaign is about to take Tony Hinchcliffe's podcast title literally, kill Tony. They're going to literally kill him.
yeah. I mean, if it's dark, if we're in like the end game for democracy right now, this guy is on the table. It has gone flatlined, and they've taken their hands off the patient. They're walking out the door. They're going to let this guy die. He's probably the only person right now is persona non grata, except for that guy that you shouted out on CNN, who's talking about
Ryan James Gudersky.
Yeah,
No, I think he
yeah.
might be
Let's
more
pour one out for
popular
that
now.
guy.
He might be more popular after telling Mehdi Hasan, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. But that happened.
Yeah.
That happened on CNN last night because they have now turned the CNN 10 to 11 o'clock hour into just pundit cockfighting. They just turn all the pundits into each other and they just let them scream. It's like a less dignified crossfire. And then shockingly, when good television broke out, where Mehdi Hasan, who is a firebrand, goes up against somebody who is unapologetically conservative, they start screaming at each other and calling each other Nazis and I hope your beeper doesn't go off. CNN immediately intervenes and ensures that no good television will be happening, and they will take measures to make sure that it never happens again.
Well, I mean, also
You've been watching too much
calling
television.
somebody a
Call that
terrorist.
good television.
I mean, dude.
Well, look, I mean, like this is beyond whatever the point
Did
of cable
Mehdi call him a
television is.
Nazi?
That was the entire segment. The entire segment was about how this was a fascist rally and that the Republican Party are Nazis and yada, yada, yada. So it's like, look, regardless, my point isn't that whether it was nice or fair or good for the country. My point is that television is about car crashes. And if you want a gigantic car crash where sparks are flying and you need the jaws of life, then put Mehdi Hasan and Ryan James Gudersky on television live and let them yell at each other, which is what happened.
Bookends. This is
But
like
here's the question, though,
late-stage
Justin.
cable.
Did you go ahead and actually exit the quad box for that one? I mean, did you like decide?
To be
hey,
totally
wait a minute,
fair,
look at this full screen, or did you just
To be totally fair, I was not watching that live because the Steelers were playing the Giants, and so
Yeah, go
I
Steelers,
had to
by the
watch.
way.
I had to
were-
watch
you
my
were
I had to
feeling
watch
it.
my Steelers
Same.
win. But I have been watching that. It's fascinating. That block of programming has just become more and more unhinged because CNN's been trying out having conservatives on that aren't just never Trumpers. Like they have the one dude who's a former
Right.
Mitch McConnell guy, Scott Jennings, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They've been trying out people who are like can say the word Republican without saying I'm sorry immediately afterward, which is like that's been the way that they've done it before. Right. And so that stuff has been, I don't know, interesting. Anyway,
Well, they used to
I don't
have a
care
lot-
about any of it.
CNN used to have a lot of Trumpers for years.
Yeah.
I mean, David Urban has been around. I mean, he's the one
Yeah,
running the Pennsylvania operation for Trump. And I mean, I'm thinking back to 8 years ago when the only Trumper they had on was a gentleman living in his mom's basement in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Somebody we might remember as Jeffrey Lord. But I mean, remember? And like they don't have. I haven't seen Jeffrey Lord on in years. But they do bring on a lot of Trumpers, especially administration types. Dude, Gudersky, you know what? I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I was recommending his Substack because I like his writing. I stopped recommending it because like his response was, "You're a terrorist." That just kind of rolled off the tongue real easily. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's not serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look,
I don't take it seriously.
I don't want to spend. I don't believe that television news is serious enough that we should be having a serious discussion about it. Television news is there so you stay on the TV long enough that you buy the gold bars that they sell afterward. So I don't really want to go into it. All I would say is that I would tune in more if Mehdi Hasan and Ryan James Gudersky were yelling at each other on television because that was interesting. And I like when they yell at each other. That's that.
People should note that we are dead serious. It's why we coordinated the black for like the final week. This pre-mortem on 2024.
The pre-mortem. All right. So Cohen, you believe that this is a tied race nationally,
Tied race
which
nationally. Yeah.
that's one way to say it. Another way to say it is Donald Trump could be the first person since George W. Bush 20 years ago to win the popular vote if it is tied nationally. If we believe it is tied nationally, that would be a tremendous overperformance for a Republican candidate, since 2004, including the 2 times that Trump has run before.
Yeah.
Mr. LoBianco, how do you see it?
Yeah.
I think, and I've written this a number of times over at 24 site, I think the fundamentals still favor Harris. It's incredibly tight. There's a couple reasons why. And this is what I hear from my sources when I'm talking with folks. I've told this anecdote before. I was talking with somebody who is they're not working directly on the Trump campaign, but in all presidentials, everything is tied to the top of the ticket. Love it or not. Yeah. They've been going out there trying to get moderate women and people who are Republicans traditionally to show back up. And if you're not going to vote for Trump, at least vote for McCormick. All right.
Yeah.
Up in Pennsylvania. And, typically when you send these things out, you don't get a ton of engagement. They were getting negative engagement. They were getting women texting back being like, F you, we don't like you, damn you for what you did with Dobbs, etc., which is shocking. And I would also add on to that, if you look at people like the Larry Hogan race, where they need to win that contingent. And this is, you might call it the Haley vote. I would call it the protest vote. These are people that are not guaranteed for Harris, but if you want a winning coalition, which is what Trump should want right now, you need them showing up to vote for him. Hogan's struggling with this crowd as well. I think, and I wrote about this, that Trump, Trump has a Hillary Clinton problem. I think it's overestimated because our barometers are still set to the shock of 2016. I think the public barometers are wrong on this, and it's underestimating the quiet women vote right now. Call it a shy Harris vote or call it what you want, but everything that I've heard from my campaign sources is flashing red signs for red flags right now for Trump. So I think Harris still has the edge right now.
Tom, I think you get one good stat from yesterday that this pollster shared with us that sort of lands your point. 2016, the net difference between Clinton and Trump on white women college plus 7. In 2020 for Biden, +9. The current polling is +29. So if you were looking for a reason for hopium, if you're a Harris person, there's your hopium. Number one, it's a huge margin. Number two, those people vote. Okay?
They vote.
Yeah. College plus white women is probably the core of the electorate. And they show up far more than their opposite members on the other side of the gender screw. And so if you're looking for reasons for that, that's the one that jumped. And to be honest, the pollster said, who I won't name because it was a private briefing, he said that he has no explanation for it.
Well, I do. Dobbs. Is the reason.
Yeah, beyond the obvious, but he was like, okay, it is so much more that it is unexplainable if not for Dobbs. Okay?
Yes.
That is basically the margin that you're looking for if you're Harris.
Yeah. This is what I wrote in the campaign memo, my latest campaign memo over at a 24 site, is that this is part of the Hillary problem that Trump has, which is, our barometers have been set previously to the shock of 2016. That's 8 years ago. One of the key things which changed, and I hear about this from a lot of women who, you're in politics, moms on the playground. I've been very surprised by this, and it's been consistent. Trump in 2016 Access Hollywood, you could brush that off. It was not demonstrated. 8 years later is Dobbs. And, love it or hate it, that is a foundational moment in the country. And I hear it repeatedly from women who vote, that it's this line in particular. It's the one instance of rights being reversed in American history. Yeah. And I don't know that Trump maybe could have done some damage control on this if he was able to, instead of doing Joe Rogan, which is the vote base that he needs, the bro vote, all right, instead of doing that, or in addition to doing that, bringing in Haley more. And you saw that, a couple weeks ago, there were these reports that maybe Haley would, would show up on the trail and whatnot. And, it's Trump, and Trump himself shoots himself in the foot saying she sucks, she's a loser, I don't need her.
Right.
You need Haley. I mean, that's a big, solid, regular voting group. So I just don't see I think we're going to be talking about quiet women voters. Well,
Isn't it crazy that this is where we are now for the first time in 3 cycles with Trump? It is the other side that's talking about the shy voters and the polls are underestimating, and this is the trust me, bro. This is all underneath the surface. This is all underneath the waves. It's not being caught in these elite measurement systems. Isn't it kind of crazy that on the third time now the polarities have flipped?
Well, I mean, Michael just said that it is being caught. It's just the public part of it that's not.
Well, no. Obviously, look, there's no doubt that there's going to be a massive gender gap in this election. That is not
The real question for me is what the whole thing about Trump is he was able to create a coalition of people who didn't normally vote, who voted. So the real question is are there Dobbs voters who are women, college plus, who somehow don't vote? A lot of them do vote. So, like, how many more of those folks do you need to make up for the coalition that Trump has basically put together over the past 10 years? That's why I end up on the other side, which is, okay, young men. Young men. That's a big group of people who are saying, you know what, that guy's like me. He went on Rogan. He's done a lot of things that, he's gone on Barstool. Like, he's leaned in totally to, what it was like. And I remember, maybe you guys do too. I'm not too old where I don't remember being in college, and understanding that, dude, if that guy went on my favorite podcast, I'd be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, even if he said crazy shit, I'd still be like, well, my fraternity bros say crazy shit. Who cares? I mean, like, this guy's on this guy's coming out and talking to me. And so I think that there may be more voters who don't normally vote, if you're trying to cobble together a bigger coalition in that group, than women who usually vote anyway. Some of them might move over, but women are predominantly voting for Democrats anyway. So, like, the question is like, does the math work? And I don't know if the answer is yes.
That's the big question, is that we are, by all available metrics, and this will be fascinating to see afterward, and one of the big postmortems that we'll have to do is there are shifting coalitions, probably on a level that we haven't seen in decades.
Yes.
If that is the case, and there are multiple tiles moving, how does it happen? Because you are right, Tom. Look, the safety moms from '04 are blue wine moms now. Like, they are locked in.
Mom. They're not even blue wine moms. They're Dobbs moms.
Right? Yeah. Dobbs mom, sure. Let me not slander wine. Wine's fine. You're allowed to drink wine.
Hey, look, I'm wearing a shirt from Prison City Brewing.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm okay with alcohol. All right.
But that is baked in. The question is exactly how much that shows up. They know they're getting slaughtered, and I think it would be more of a red flag from the Trump campaign if they were chasing after that vote without a plan, than saying, look, we know we're going to get killed. We need to find these votes elsewhere. And right now, the larger question is, can they meaningfully eat into the black vote by way of black men? Can they meaningfully eat into the Latino vote by way of Latino men? Right. Can they meaningfully eat into the youth vote? Some of these college counties that now all of a sudden, are we going to see? They put a lot of time and effort into the bro stuff. So, like, Penn State, Michigan State, Michigan, University of Michigan, these kind of places that they normally get their ass kicked at, that it is a slaughter. Can they mitigate that? Can they mitigate it in Detroit? Can they mitigate it in Philadelphia? Can they mitigate it in Pittsburgh? Those are the real questions that I think we have right now. And no one's going to know the answer, because normally you guess one demographic that is sliding one. And now we got like 4 of them.
Yeah, Justin, that's why I say we really don't know, right? And because the problem is that there are too many groups that you're concerned about. Not only do they show up, but in what numbers. And so that's where I think we are really, in the end game of this, where the polls are tight enough that any little nudge of an issue, for example, I mean, if you believe that, the Puerto Rico is a floating pile of trash, is going to activate Pennsylvanians who are Puerto Rican. Well, that, for all we know, that's the difference, right? And so, did that happen too quickly? We still have a week left. There's plenty of crazy shit to come. Sorry, we need to beep that out. There's plenty of crazy stuff to come.
That's fine.
And so, I think that's what I'm concerned about. That's why I feel like no real conviction about one way or the other on this election. And conviction, of course, goes along with my, Prison City Brewing shirt. Sorry.
Well, then let's walk through these scenarios, because we've been asking everybody on the show which of the 4 scenarios. And I'm going to go from the bottom of where, think what anybody will about the poly market, but they do actually have these 4 scenarios up for betting right now. They have a market for it. We're going to go from the least likely to the most likely available on the odds, right? So this is not us. This is what whatever French crypto traders believe is more or less likely.
They need to get a live. Watch
The Democratic sweep.
Okay.
All right. So that is D presidency, D House, D Senate. Tom, what would happen? We wake up and that is the world on Wednesday. What has happened?
I think in that scenario, John Tester has regrown three of his fingers. Let's say it's not going to happen. No, that's not.
Ted Cruz is just a podcast host. Rick Scott goes back into healthcare.
The guys on CNN hug it out and you get married.
So all right, but let's. I mean, this would be. We mentioned the Dobbs voter. That is this is the Dobbs election.
Dobbs. Yeah, landslide Dobbs.
Yeah, this was the number one. Doesn't matter what was said in the polls. Doesn't matter about inflation. Doesn't matter about anything else. Women vote, and they vote based on this issue.
Yeah.
This is a reckoning, the likes of which that nobody has ever seen, and it is an absolute liberal wipeout. You take the most favorable Republican map in the Senate and throw it in the trash. Donald Trump is banished to the shadow realm, and Kamala Harris is unburdened by what has been.
Yeah. Yes, that's not happening. I just don't.
That is the least likely. That is 14% of the market.
How much throwing no, and whoever's throwing money at that.
And if they these betting markets feel like they need to pay me for this free advice that I'm offering, it's in cash. I don't accept fake money. Okay.
Not even buy me coffee. Just
give me
cash, straight cash.
Yeah, just send cash. I mean, it's all weird cash. Russian crap anyway.
Right? To my name, right?
All right, so we agree that is the least likely. Probably, I would say not because of the House or the presidency, but because of the Senate, right? Yeah. The Senate's what is just really, really hard to get over the hill on.
Sense flipped. It's not
the only. I mean, the only person guaranteed of being happy, I think, is John Thune.
Yeah, you think Thune has the inside track on Cornyn?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he's got him.
Next majority leader.
Yeah, the Senate does the safest thing to do, and Thune is the safest choice.
So we believe Tim Sheehy and the dump truck dog out of West Virginia. They're the two seats that need to flip, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, because it's not going to be Carrie Lake, so it's just not happening.
Yeah,
she's not happening.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the second least likely. That is Donald Trump wins the Republican Senate and the Democratic House. So this would be a good night for Republicans. Certainly they would be in ascendancy, but Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, I presume this is probably something that comes in very close, very similar margins to 2016, 2020, a very bare win for Donald Trump, but you do see the overperformance in some of these small House districts, especially in California and New York, which buoyed Republicans in 2022 and gave them the House majority. I call this scenario Democratic Civil War because I believe this is the kindling that actually sets forth Hunger Games level violence within the Democratic Party, because the message will be our issues were right, our leadership was wrong. Our candidates at the top of the ticket were wrong. And now you see the gangs of New York battle to see who will be the new standard bearer of that party.
I mean, that was the fallout from 2004, wasn't it?
Yep.
I mean, that's how you got Obama. And
it was such a wide open race.
Yeah.
But it would be like post 2004 without Hillary, because everybody knew that Hillary was running,
Yes.
in that next cycle, hell or high water. Right. And so this was, there's nobody like that except for, maybe the closest thing that you would have for an establishment favorite that is definitely going to get shined up is Mayor Pete. But even that, he's not Hillary.
No. And I think look at, and to that sensitivity around things, look at where whoever it was lit the ballots on fire in Washington State. That's in the Holskamp-Perez, one of the key blue districts in her district, one of the key blue precincts. So there is a distinct sensitivity to this possibility. And I'm guessing here, but I would be shocked if we found out that it was Blue Anon that did it. I think you're going to find out.
Oh no, Tom, stop! Come on, no, we can't do that. We can't. It's look. Number one, it was in a Volvo. If it was in an F-150, we'd be having a different conversation. But it was, as soon as everybody's like, "Oh, it's in a Volvo," it's like, "Uh-oh."
Stereotype based on Volvos.
Well, I'm not stereotyping. I don't know. I said this on Twitter. I don't think that it helps anybody if what we want is full faith in this election to start assuming who lit the ballot boxes on fire before we have any idea about it.
To be clear, we don't know.
Rented Volvo.
Yeah.
You guys got to start really thinking, catch up,
Fourth dimensionally. Yeah.
Yeah. This is basically the Biden bomb scenario, right? It's like Biden destroyed the party. Biden is no longer a consequential president. He's the reason why we lost. It's basically like it's the blame Biden scenario. We were so close. We could have won if we just had a real primary and everyone went left. And so you're right. I think that this is actually a very likely scenario. This is a much more likely scenario than the previous one we're talking about. It's very likely that Trump wins, and it's a lock that the Senate goes, and the House is definitely in play. There are certain seats. There's one in Iowa that they're concerned about. There's a bunch of seats there's sort of low level seats that no one's paying attention to, that all of a sudden money's being poured into by the NRCC and others. It is a very real scenario. And I would think also, to be honest, this is actually more likely than a sweep. I would say this is more likely than a sweep. At least I haven't seen the betting markets, but I would call
We'll get there. I will say that all of these three scenarios that are not the top one are very much bunched together. It's 14%, 17%, and 19%.
Okay,
so this one is 17%.
Fair enough.
I agree with you. I tend to think that this, the only thing that I would say is that I've seen some arguments that if Trump wins, it's going to be very hard for him to win and not to have the Republicans take the House, because you were just going to be looking at a turnout of that Trump coalition that for the last time, everyone's going to say, oh, it's impossible to pull. It turns out that these people just hide behind rocks. They don't engage in anything else. They never vote for anybody but Donald Trump. So there's going to be a problem for the Republicans going forward. But they do show up once every 4 years and get yelled at polling stations. And so they take off their shirt and call the poll workers names. Yeah,
but don't underestimate the power of gerrymandering and sort of idiosyncratic things. I think if anything is going to be weird, it's going to be the House. So
yeah,
and it will, of course, overcorrect for a Speaker of the House who's black, right? And so it will be all of a sudden he's a historical figure. We could have had it all, and instead we have this. So
I definitely, there's a reason why I called that one Democratic Civil War, because it will be violent. I think Biden's going to get it. Kamala's going to get it. Everybody involved with that Biden team is going to be tossed into the Atlantic Ocean.
They're going to explode. Yeah, Biden beepers are going to be exploding. that day happens. I mean, seriously, those people just disconnect from all your electronics and just
Depending,
go
yeah,
off the
well,
grid. Seriously,
depending on how certain voting districts come in
Yeah.
Michigan and Pennsylvania, we'll
Be
see.
careful, kids. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the second most likely. This is the second most likely, but again, these bottom three are bunched very close together. It's 19%. Kamala wins, Republican Senate, Democratic House.
That's a likely scenario, sure. Yeah, if Kamala wins, that's the likely scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just
this is
because,
the Tom
again,
LoBianco scenario.
yeah, this would be your the way that that you're feeling the race, right? So if you were betting, look, that's a good contract. 19%. That means you can make 81 cents on the dollar for every dollar you bet.
Yeah.
Tom's
And,
tab,
look,
baby. Tom's
I
tab.
should know. Look, I should note. I personally, and I've written about this. I personally, as a reporter, as a journalist, as somebody who traffics in information and tries to understand what the F is going on in this country, I don't trust the betting markets because they're very easily manipulated. I mean, I put them lower than the polling aggregators
Thank
in
you.
terms of accuracy.
Yeah. No, I mean,
But
yeah.
that being said, there's a distinct possibility that this is the case. I think that, and if things go as such, right? I mean, because the Senate is, I don't see Texas and Florida flipping. I just don't. And
Those are insanity moves. There's no way.
I will tell you this. I think that by all polling, it looks like we are going to see Texas get redder relative to 4 years ago for the first time in a while. I'll actually have to take a look at when it's been getting progressively bluer. But at least the polling suggests that it might be. I think Trump won by 8 last time. He's polling around. I think the latest Siena poll had him at 10 now. So it's like that would show that at least the ever blooming dream for Democrats of a blue Texas which would essentially lock the Republicans out of the White House unless they change their tune, is just that, a dream.
It's Trump's last rodeo, right? And so they're gonna circle the wagons, and I'll mangle all of these things. But Ted Cruz is gonna owe Donald Trump his seat. I think because Allred was a good candidate, probably a decent candidate enough that's close enough, but Trump's gonna be able to turn to him and say, Ted, the reason why you're not in Cancun right now is because of me.
Yeah. The problem with Allred is that the way that a Democrat wins in Texas is essentially by running as Joe Manchin, right? Like you need to run as, hey, I am a common sense liberal. I'm on the conservative side of the liberal spectrum, right? Like I am center left. I put 3 centers before I said left, and
you can move Joe Manchin down there.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he can park his houseboat on South Padre Island, but maybe.
Let's not forget that Joe Manchin was also governor before he was senator. I mean,
right.
Joe Manchin was a thing before the whole wave of people, polarizing. And so I think, Joe Manchin was his own brand. So
yes, he was.
The idiosyncratic thing about Joe Manchin, I don't know that there's really an awful lot beyond that. I mean, Joe Manchin was the guy who shot Obamacare, with a gun, right?
Wow.
Or was it Hillary Healthcare?
Yes.
Was it Hillary Healthcare or was it Obamacare? I forget which one he shot.
I think it was Obamacare. Yeah.
It was Obamacare, right. He actually stood out with a shotgun and took shots at Obamacare.
Oh God! Man, I meant to do that this cycle, to do the great history of people shooting things in ads, because then when Tim Ryan ran against JD Vance in 2022, he wanted to run as a conservative Democrat because that was the mood, but he couldn't shoot things because he still has to win Cleveland and Cincinnati and Columbus, so he threw footballs at things.
Oh, that's great, because he's a football player.
Yeah.
That's the thing you think about the most when you think about Tim Ryan. Definitely a football player.
Exactly. Natural athlete.
Obviously a quarterback. How many takes did that take? My God.
It was weird too, because it was like Like, you could tell that the concept of the ad was a gun because it was like in a warehouse where it was like targets that were coming by. It wasn't like in a field where somebody was running and holding it. It was like in a warehouse, and he's like throwing footballs in a dark warehouse. It's ridiculous.
It wasn't even like throwing them outside at a tree with tires. I mean, that's like the iconic. That's what you do, right? You know.
By the way, real quick with the Colin Allred, there's one pack that is supporting Ted Cruz that is just unhinged. Like, they have two ads that are up locally. One of them is a legless Vietnam veteran saying, "I lost my legs serving this country, but Colin Allred is too radical for wanting drag shows on military bases," or whatever. And then the tag
in Vietnam for this, basically.
No, the tagline is, "I might not have legs, but I can see that Colin Allred's too liberal."
God.
Oh, this is the Jeff Rowe.
You got a link to that in the show notes. That's incredible.
And another one is a lot of stuff about men playing women's sports in Texas. Women's sports has never gotten a glow up like they have since the last 5 years. They made Republicans care about the WNBA. What a tremendous cultural shift. That being said, the ad from the Super PAC tries to use Colin Allred's football history, because he's an actual NFL player, against him, because they have a gigantic hulking Colin Allred stand-in just spearing a little girl in a little girl's football, like a peewee football game.
As if he's a trans
as
guy.
If he's he's the men playing women's sports. But yeah, unhinged. I'll see if I can find those ads and put them in the show notes. But just absolutely insane.
When was that one released? Is that recent, or is that one?
That one's been on the air for the last few days. I know somebody on the Cruz campaign, and they still haven't gotten back to me. I'm just like, what is going on with these ads?
Tell me you're at the end of the campaign without telling me you're at the end of the campaign, right? Like, just turn on your TV.
Do you remember that old school Peyton Manning SNL where he's just like dumping on the kids?
Oh yeah, that was so good.
He's like, come on,
get up. That was fantastic.
This is your update, brought to you by politicspolitics.com. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Wherever you want to go, it's all going to bring you to the same place, our brand new home on Substack. So, quick note. I've been telling you guys for the last several weeks that we have our $99 deal that is less than $100 for 150 episodes, 1 year's worth of content of PX3 available, and it was going to end on Halloween. And that was the plan. I am giving a reprieve because I got enough emails over the last 24 hours of people saying, look, it's a money thing. You get paid at a certain point. I don't have. So look, we're going to extend it until Election Day. We're going to go through Election Day for the $99 deal. Again, 150 episodes for less than $100. So there you go. Hopefully not. I don't know why people would be mad if other people continue to get a deal that they got. It's not like it's cheaper. So there we go. $99 deal is going until Election Day. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. We are coming up on 80% converted from Patreon, which is massive. That's huge. I think if we only get a few more, it's like a couple dozen more, my badge changes on Substack. Very excited about that. Very excited. I have a stenciled badge that says that I am a bestseller, but I will have a colored in orange badge very soon. Here are some stories that we did not get a chance to get to in this episode. Kamala Harris's campaign has outpaced Donald Trump's in attracting new donors daily, and that has continued up to the final days of this election. The surge reflects a broader Democratic advantage in online fundraising, with Harris maintaining over 2.4 times the number of Trump's donor count This after Trump briefly overtook Biden's donor count post-conviction when he was convicted for the New York stuff. Harris quickly surpassed him when she stepped in, amassing 4.3 million donors led in mid-October. Key events like the debates have amplified her momentum, while Trump's major gains have come primarily from extraordinary events in this election cycle. So, obviously, this is in some ways not surprising because Act Blue was a forerunner to win red. The Democrats were the first party to officially bless an online giving portal, and that has been to their benefit. They have a longer list of emails and phone numbers that they're able to ping people. There is a larger network effect for the Democrats than the Republicans. So they should be doing better. Something that we might want to get into in some of the dead time after this election is the way that online portals, and I have heard complaints on both of them, WinRed and Act Blue, that there are ways that you can have a big donation turn into a lot of small donations. And that helps generate headlines, that helps generate grassroots movement, and so on and so on. So, look, we joked about Kamala Harris and her massive fundraising prowess being the actual cost for the donor community of ousting a nominee. You know, that is the off menu item that if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So the money that she has raised is there. I don't know. We will give her the benefit of the doubt that she does have a groundswell of online donations and donors, that much of that I believe is probably real. I am curious as to see whether or not we will see the story of large donations being broken up into many, many small donations to be something that happens in the off time. Elon Musk's legal team has filed to move a lawsuit over his $1 million voter giveaway to federal court, avoiding a Pennsylvania hearing and delaying proceedings. The lawsuit, filed by Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, alleges Musk's daily sweepstakes run through his pro-Trump PAC violates state lottery laws. Musk's attorneys argued that the case concerns federal law, especially due to its ties to the 2024 election. Krasner claims Musk's actions were a publicity stunt, and moving to federal court restarts the legal process, which could delay the rulings. Krasner has faced anti-Semitic threats from Musk's platform X since filing the lawsuit against Musk, and I'm sure he's probably faced threats that weren't necessarily anti-Semitic, just regular threats. So good for him. X is certainly a potpourri of opinions, appropriate and not. All of this stems from Musk's America PAC, which is harvesting data by way of paying people to sign a pledge, but you have to be registered to vote to sign the pledge. And if you sign the pledge, then not only do you get $100, but you get $47 for every person you refer to sign the pledge. And once a day, you were getting $1 million. Now, the Department of Justice sent a letter to Elon Musk saying that this might be illegal. That was a story broken by our boy, Tom LoBianco, on this episode. What's happening now is, look, is this illegal? You know, it's certainly an extrapolation of something that is done all the time. So oftentimes in get out the vote operations, you will have some kind of little treat at the end for people to give over their information, because there's two things. Number one, there's voter registration, making sure that people register to vote. The other part about it is get out the vote. The Musk PAC is targeting low propensity voters, people that are either hardcore First Amendment or hardcore Second Amendment people, would therefore probably fit into the mold of a Trump voter, but don't vote. So what they're doing is targeting those people online. They're saying, hey, if you register to vote and you sign up for this thing, but mostly give us your data. Give us your information, phone number, email, address, everything. Then we're going to be able to keep pinging you to say, hey, by the way, you got to go out and vote. Do you know that Kamala Harris is an absolute nightmare on the First Amendment? Do you know that Kamala Harris is an absolute nightmare on the Second Amendment? Go vote, go vote, go vote. Oftentimes with other things like this, you do have the raffle element, but it's usually, you might have seen it, I'd like to have you over for dinner. Donald Trump, Barack Obama, whatever. You can win a trip to blah, blah, blah with whatever candidate. So it's like one kind of thing. It's not $1 million a day. So the question then becomes, is the practice illegal? Probably not. Is the money a complicator that makes it illegal? That's up to the scholars. That's up to the judges. For right now, this is Elon Musk exactly doing what the DA is saying that he is trying to do, which is run out the clock. So, he's only got 4 days to run out, and the legal system does not move that fast. The U.S. added only 12,000 jobs in October, with unemployment holding steady at 4.1%. This due to factors like hurricanes and strikes. Economists had expected 115,000 new jobs, but these external factors might be a misrepresentation of the economic trends. The Bureau of Labor Statistics noted it couldn't quantify the job losses caused by these events. Revised October and September data showed a slowdown, suggesting that there is underlying labor market woes. The weak report does come just before Election Day, although I think that the economic cake is baked. Nobody is going to say that, change their mind based on reports like this. And I think this one is pretty grim. You're seeing a lot of hand waving because of the hurricanes and because of the strikes. But look, the strike was, pretty brief. And it's not like hurricanes have totally wrecked entire nationwide labor reports in this way in the past. Here's the other thing. We added 12,000 jobs. I think 40,000 jobs were added on the government side. So that means that the private sector is ailing right now, at least according to these numbers. But again, I don't think this really affects the election all that much. It is certainly an interesting thing to look at for the next president, though. And that will wrap it up for us today. No, wrong thing. And that is your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Again, the $99 deal is extended until Election Day. Don't email me and tell me that you only get your check. Take advantage of it. It is by far the most popular way that people are interacting with us on Substack. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now, back to our conversation. All right, so the most likely scenario, according to Paulie Marca, is the Republican sweep. 47% of the money in that market is on a Republican sweep. Again, don't take seriously exactly how much they believe in it. Although, if you want to prove them stupid, all these other ones are sitting here at very, very tasty value.
Pretty affordable.
But that's Pax MAGA. That, to me, if that is the story, is Donald Trump. We wake up on Wednesday or Thursday and we say, what are we, dummies? The last 10 years have been all about Donald Trump. He's more popular now than he's ever been. It's a 60-30 right track, wrong track in against the current administration. The current administrations normally don't win those elections. Everything else was window dressing. Everything else was just dancing around the maypole on what had been baked in for months.
Endgame realignment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Endgame realignment, and we're talking about the Trump decade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
definitely.
mean, look, if that is the case, and, again, my standard caveat here, the betting markets are easily manipulated. So the way I look at it is there's a reason that's being so heavily pushed. But if that is the case, and we're back here 1 week later, whenever this is called,
Yeah.
we're talking about, Latino men,
Yeah.
black men. We're talking
Young
about
men.
how everyone from Obama to Charlemagne the God was unable to get through to black voters. But, these advertisements with some Colin Allred, dunking on, little girls on the football field is exactly what moved it. And yeah, in that scenario, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the message going forward will be, I mean, Biden will be excoriated, and partly for the reason that, hey, you actually didn't have the worst hand you could be dealt economically, but you played the hand that you were dealt maybe the worst you possibly could. You denied inflation. You did not say that we were on a slow track to get back to where we needed to be, like Obama did, where he was talking about, hey, the last administration drove the car into the ditch. It takes a little bit to get out of it, but you don't want to hand the keys back to the people that wrecked the economy to begin with. Like that was the playbook. Instead, you talked about how, hey, we're better off than Germany, which nobody in, Michigan wants to hear when they have to buy less ground beef for meatloaf.
If this scenario happens, you're looking at three failures. You're looking at Afghanistan, which totally upended the presidency. You're looking at inflation, which they were too late on, and then a belated shift on immigration. Those three major issues sort of undermine the competency of Biden. It undermined the trust for Biden.
Yeah.
And then of course the debate, is the fourth thing. But I mean, and in retrospect, this is the thing I've been saying now for a couple of years. He should have left after the midterms riding high and said, okay, I'm going to pass this off. I'm going to give you, you now have a Dobbs rocket ship. Whoever wants to pick this up, go win, win it for me, win it for Biden. And instead, right now, he's going to be the reason why they get swept. And so under this scenario, I still don't think that this scenario is the scenario. I would put my money, which I am not a betting person, and I don't bet on anything really. I go to casinos and I watch my friends lose their money, and I don't take dollar bets even with my Sons of Spurrier chat. But if there is a scenario, the scenario for me is Trump wins, Senate goes Republican, Democrats get the House, and you basically get the Biden bomb anyway. So, but if this is a sweep, then we are talking about major realignment in this country around some of those issues, which would be America First, which would be which picks up Afghanistan and immigration. You're going to look at tax cuts for just about everybody, so the debt's going to go way up, and you're also going to look at Dobbs, the further erosion of the ability to have that right in this country. Because if that's a sweep, there's definitely going to be a bill on the table for him to sign, and I would be shocked if he didn't sign it. But my guess is it'll probably go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will probably bail themselves out of this because they don't want it, and just say no, we meant when we said that it should be at the states, and that'll be the end of the issue.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean we're talking literally generations of Democrats will be swept away.
Well, I think also it would be the definitive, and we might be at it either way, no matter who wins, but we're at the end of this meta of the abortion conversation. I think that Kamala Harris will be the last Democratic candidate that runs on, trust me, the Senate will make a law and I'll sign it, because I think if she loses, and if for as much as there are the Dobbs voters, I think that this is the last time that you're going to be able to get away with, we're going to solve this federally, as opposed to we are going to work state by state to cobble together what we can. And that's going to give us the rocket fuel to get to a filibuster proof majority, or try to end the filibuster or something like that.
Or just win it in the States. I mean, you basically can go ahead and just have 50 elections on this. You get them on, whatever referenda you can.
Yeah.
And you try and fight it out that way. Justin, you were actually, I don't know if you gave yourself props for this, but you should. The idea of Kamala should have, for the past couple of weeks, just basically gone to different places and said, I'm giving extra money that we have to this campaign for, for all of these, things that are on, in Arizona and everywhere else, on abortion. And she easily could have had real news.
Yeah.
Because she could have given real money. She could have had real events with real people and had them tell their stories and really made this about Dobbs. And instead, she's talking about what? She's talking about how Donald Trump is unhinged. This is how Biden went down the rabbit hole that and the trap that they set for him. Instead of talking about the future, again, campaigns are about the future, not the past. They're about positive, if you can, not negative. And she decided, okay, for whatever reason, it got in her head that she has to go and talk about all the things we already know about Donald Trump instead of what she would do, which is really
and look,
missing. Yeah,
Trump's closing argument is Kamala broke it. I will fix it. Right.
Yeah.
That is future.
Biden
There's no reason why.
And Kamala.
There's no reason why Kamala's argument couldn't have been if she goes state by state. And yes, it means you go to New Mexico. Yes, it means you go to a few places. But a lot of these. Yeah, but a lot of these, again, it's the Senate seats you need to do the thing that you actually are saying you want to do. There are Senate races in these states. You say Trump broke it. I will fix it.
Right.
I'm fixing it right now.
You know what? No, that's not Trump's closing argument, though, because Trump's closing argument is I'm going to build detention camps and deportation camps. I'm going to go after...
That's not his slogan behind him when he speaks. The slogan behind him when he speaks and that ends his campaign ads is Kamala broke it, I will fix it.
Right. But it is what a large part of this country is hearing. And, look, the media environment is fractured, but I mean, he is, and his campaign, and this goes to this split personality, whatever you want to call it, this bipolar disorder of this campaign, where the campaign apparatus does one thing, and then the person who drives news does the other thing. His closing argument is that he's going to start kicking out immigrants out of this country. And
but that's a majority positive position now.
But that is right. That's right. But that's the closing argument.
It's not.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's his closing argument.
Honestly, I don't really know that he has a closing argument, to be honest. I mean, he has multiple closing arguments. Like, for example, we're watching Monday Night Football last night, and it's the tagline to that ad is, "She is for they, them, and he is for you." Which is actually a really good tagline. Now, it's one ad, right? But Monday Night Football, right? And it's to the people he needs to have come out. And so,
that's the dichotomy. That's kind of the bipolar disorder of that side of things. It reflects the RNC. Remember the RNC, the official messaging from the campaign that these Reagan Morning in America style. Everything is going to be great again. That's one half of it. And then the other half of it is we're living in hell. We're going to start putting people in deportation camps. And I don't know which one works. Like, I don't know which one penetrates. I do agree that, Harris getting sucked into that has hurt her.
Definitely.
As opposed to talking about, look back to when she did Oprah and focused on so much on women. It was I think ProPublica had just had that blockbuster story about the woman in Georgia who died because she couldn't receive treatment in Georgia. It has gotten her away from that. And I don't know if they can or will get back to that, but that's what they should. If they want to win, that's what they should be getting back to.
Well, you're not talking about abortion if you're doing your big closing argument at the ellipse. If you're doing it at the ellipse, you're talking about Jan 6.
Right. And that would be where Biden would have been.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a miss. It's a total miss. She should be, talking with women. She should be somewhere talking about Dobbs. I mean, talking about January 6th, we all know what happened, and everybody knows where they are on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, is it guaranteed that it's J6? Because I was reading Playbook this morning.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's like where you are is the character, right? It's the main character of the story is where she is.
That's the headline. The headline is going to be, I'm standing where Trump stood before they stormed the Capitol. And now we're going to storm your ballot box with hope and joy.
Right. With joy. That I've somehow forgotten over the past month, and that's why we're now tied. Like, she's gotten to the point of no joy. This is why we're all wearing black. There's no joy in this campaign at this point. Right? And so because it's all, it was all shiny in Brett's summer, it was all sunny. And now we're in, dark fall. The leaves are off already, and we're in winter. And so this is the winner of this campaign right here. And she, she can say all she wants about, warning about Trump. We know who Trump is, right? And if you've decided you're going to vote for Trump, you're not surprised that somehow he stacked the court. You're not surprised that somehow he, is going to pardon everyone from January 6th. Or pre-pardon them for the next January 6th. I mean, seriously, like this should not be the closing argument of this campaign, but it is.
Well, we will see. I still have yet to make my decision. I agree with you guys. I tend to believe that Trump wins Republican Senate, Democratic House is underrated if it is the third most popular right now. And I've got to say, I don't know if my gut, I'm leaning more toward Michael. My gut is I think that yes, this ground game might be a total miss. From the Trump campaign, doesn't matter. He has brought these like people out from under rocks that nobody has ever been able to reach to go vote for him twice before. I think he's going to do it again. I don't think there's any reason to believe that he is less popular than he was in 2020. I think that by all measures, he is more popular. That for all that we talk about Tony Hinchcliffe, people in Pennsylvania are probably going to remember him getting shot in the face more than they remember what a comedian said at MSG that our 24-hour news cycle obsessed brains are. And that this is tilting his way. That being said, I also can't shake 2022.
Right? Yeah. No, he's unburdened by what has been his own presidency. Okay,
he has.
He's unburdened by what has been because everybody's memory hold it, right? And 2022 is weird because it's an off-year election and Trump's not on the ballot. Right. When Trump's on the ballot, his people show up, right? When he's not on the ballot, they don't show up. So if you're a Democratic hoper, you're really looking forward to 2026 when he's not on the ballot, and and whether he's president or not. So you start looking at the Senate. Can we take back the Senate? But I'm with you. I think, personally, I'm a never Trump, and I think those bona fides are out there. So I would prefer, personally, the Tom LoBianco scenario. But I think what will happen, if I had to put money on it at this point, would be that Trump would squeak ahead. The Senate's gone to Republicans, and that's pretty set. And I think the House probably squeaks the other way.
All right.
It's a squeaky election all around, guys.
It is. It is.
The other way. Yeah.
And that's, let me ask you, Michael, because you've been involved in the campaign apparatus stuff. One of the things that I can't shake arguing for me to say, yes, not only Trump, but also that you might beef up a little bit on the Senate margin for the Republicans, is that not only have none of these battleground Senate Democrats, including incumbents, used the word Democrat in their ads for months, but now they are featuring Joe Biden and Donald Trump next to each other to talk about how bipartisan they are. They're not talking about Kamala Harris. They're not talking about any of the issues that Kamala Harris is talking about. They are talking about everything that Trump is talking about. And I'm like, ooh, like they're looking at internal polling. The only reason why Joe Biden's not at the top of this ticket is because of these campaigns that were screaming and yelling that they were getting sandbagged. Like that doesn't look like a good sign, but maybe I'm overrating that.
No, you're not overrating that. I mean, they're clearly seeing their internals and saying, okay, Trump's probably going to win here. It might be close, or it might not be, and we certainly need to get right with Trump voters, right? You're trying to blur lines at the end. I don't know that that really helps. That's a panic move. This is
that's the other thing.
Yeah, it's a panic move. It's not strategic. It's tactical. It's, oh crap, the bottom's falling out. What can we do? And the one thing you can do is say, well, I've worked with Donald Trump on X, Y, and Z. And if he's president again, I won't be a jerk about this whole thing.
Which brings me back to kind of my larger issue with the Kamala Harris campaign in general and where Democrats are currently. I believe, and this might be too simple, that Democrats tend to win by exciting Democratic voters. You talk to Democratic voters that have voted for your party repeatedly over and over and over again, and you say, we're at it again. The only thing, the thing that Democrats can do the best, we're doing it. We are moving, we're making government work for you. We are finally going to fix these problems that have been bugging you. We are the party that thinks about you and fights for your interests. And they're out right now with Liz Cheney. And it's like, that to me is like, wow, I don't know. I mean, I get the logic. Look, I read Playbook too. I know that they think, okay, 5 to 10% of that protest vote of Nikki Haley in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you are alienating your core constituency by speaking almost exclusively to center-right voters, if you are depressing your own enthusiasm.
It's a hard balancing act. I mean, you look at, it's kind of like, was it France or Britain that did this? And really, this is part of the U.S., moving into aligning with global the political coalitions. You have these pro-democracy coalitions versus these, authoritarian-style nationalist coalitions. That's part of it, and you got to bring them in. And maybe they haven't done that yet. I hear from a lot of, obviously I've been covering Republicans for a long time, and, kind of classical liberal conservatives, what used to be conservatism in the U.S. or the right in the U.S. And a lot of those folks would say they are still the conservatives.
Yeah.
This post-ideological right does not cover that. I don't know that they might not have done that work, because I hear a lot from people who say they are staying home. They're just not voting.
Yeah.
And if that's your pro-democracy coalition includes that as a center, not a centerpiece, but key faction, whatever it is, 5, 10, 15%, disaffected Republicans and conservatives. That's a hard thing to do. That's a hard group. Again, this is, talked about this before. It's that kind of the tilting the tilting of the political divide from left right to nationalist, whatever, globalist,
internationalist,
or globalist too.
I mean, bringing it home here though, Justin. I mean, I think that there was Brat's summer, and during that summer, we were having conversations like, okay, where's the policy, right?
Yeah.
And so
this is why I said that she lost the debate. For the record, when I said that she lost the debate, my main argument was this was her big moment to introduce herself, and instead we got, she hammered Trump, and so she wins, right? But she's not going to get a lot of opportunities to say, here I am, I have emerged from the ocean as your savior.
I'm giving this one back to you, okay? All right,
yes!
All right.
Yes!
All right.
No one. Justin won the election.
She could have done it in this.
That's the only 100%.
It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be at the debate, okay? I think that for me, still the threshold was, she can be on the same par with Trump. She won that. That's fine.
Yes.
She could have, after that, gone on a road trip, which is very traditional, and then done specific policy rollouts all over the place, right, in key areas. You have a backdrop of a factory. I'm going to rebuild factories or whatever. But the point is that she ended up with no distinct policy differences between her and Biden, to the point where she gets outed by herself, saying that there's really no difference between me and Biden.
Yeah.
And so, that's really the problem, the strategic problem with this campaign. And the reason why, if they lose, this is the answer, is exactly what you were talking about a little bit earlier, which is, what did you give the progs? What did you give them to hold on to? Like, Obama gave them health care. Biden was giving them, we're going to...
Student debt.
And also, we're going to vaccinate everybody, which weirdly skewed left and right. I mean, there were specific things you can put your finger on and say, okay, if this person's elected president, this is what they're going to do. I can't tell you after the entire campaign what exactly she would do. Okay. I can't give you 3 or 4 policy things that I've never seen before that were really interesting, that she's had an incredible career that has all led up to this. With all my experience, here's my point of view when I get the rock. When I get the rock,
Yeah.
I want to shoot it.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot it this way, right? No answer. And that's why she's going to lose. Okay. If she loses, the reason why is because she decided to run a campaign about nothing. She ran the Seinfeld campaign, and you never win the Seinfeld campaign. You lose.
Yeah.
Well, she did
Tom?
talk about it, and she did she did talk about the policies that she wants to do,
Name them.
but did not make that the centerpiece.
what does she want to
You gotta
do?
make that distinction, which is that she talked about the housing credit, she talked about the small business credit, she talks about, as we said earlier, right? She talks about
Cool. Little tax credit here,
replenishing
little tax credit
grow.
there. Yeah.
She was
it
born
didn't-
in a middle-class family. We are aware that she was born in a middle-class family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like,
But I hear your argument, though, that
transformative.
it's not that she did not make that the centerpiece.
yeah. I mean,
And also, too, I would note that we wouldn't write about it. We would not write about
no,
that.
you would. Eventually you would, because you know why? We totally dismissed immigration as a thing. The Republicans stayed on it. It stayed being a problem, and eventually it broke through. Like, the whole point of a campaign is to break through the noise with like 3 or 4 things, usually 3, usually no more than 3, but sometimes 4.
Yeah.
The 4th one is the other guy sucks, right? So
Yeah.
here's the 3 reasons why you should elect me. Here's the 4th, and the other person sucks. I can't give it to you off the top of my head. I can strain and figure out things that she's talked about, but those are not the centerpieces of her campaign, and certainly it's not her closing argument on the ellipse today. Okay? And so that's the failure of the campaign strategically. Tactically, she probably has gone on the right things. She's probably talked to the right people. We can quibble whether or not she should have gone on Rogan. Rogan said he's not going to travel to go see her, Kamala Harris, and he ripped her anyway during the interview with Trump. So like that was probably a dead end. But like tactically, there were things that I think this is a very good tactical campaign. They did a lot of things really well. They raised a ton of money. They spent a lot of money. They went to the right places. I mean, they did the things, right? But there was no overarching strategy, which is what happened to the Hillary campaign. The Hillary campaign was about nothing as well. It was about, it's my turn.
Yes.
Harris, I'm vice president. I dumb lucked into this. It's my turn. That is not compelling enough to win an election on its own. She may win anyway because of Dobbs and other reasons, but she failed from a strategic standpoint on how this campaign ran.
I think that, yeah, there's a difference between strategy and tactics. And, tactics are what you do today. Strategy is the larger message that you want to say. And I will say, I don't know what the strategy is because she has given me 4 different versions of the tactics. We went from LOL, JD Vance banged his couch. How weird. These guys aren't weird old men weird. Let's turn the page and have these cool, hip people come in and totally make it awesome. And now it's like Nazis have hit the border. They are creeping into our, the cities have fallen. Only you can repel them.
They've taken Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
I don't know. So that's where I end up. I end up with Trump winning narrowly. I end up with Senate for the Republicans. And I end up with the House probably squeaks back the other way for idiosyncratic reasons. And I think we're in the Justin Robert Young scenario. Well done.
Well, I don't know. We don't know what it is because I will say I am leaning.
Yeah, you are. Come on.
I'm leaning. Well, so I'm leaning toward either. I'm leaning on the Republican side of the ledger, right? So I'm leaning to either the split scenario where it's Democratic Civil War, or that Donald Trump can't win without also winning the House. Right. That it just means that the turnout is, and if you look at. And look, this is a whole nother conversation that we've already gone
saving
on.
This for another podcast. That's what you're
but
saying.
The early vote, I don't take the early vote seriously. Don't take the early vote seriously. Don't take the early vote seriously. But when John Ralston is saying the Reid machine has been broken, this is a nightmare scenario for Democrats in Nevada.
Yeah.
And that's the bluest of the states, the one that Trump has never won. I'm like, okay, well then now you might be looking at down ballot in Nevada a Senate race that hasn't been competitive polling wise, and House races that haven't been particularly competitive that now might be competitive. And if that's the case, then how can you say that Donald Trump's going to win without saying that Donald Trump's going to win the House? So I don't know. We'll decide at the end of this. At the end of this episode, I will make my final decision. But in the meantime, everybody needs to go to Tom LoBianco, who is in his bag recently, breaking national news with
Totally
Elon Musk's super PAC. He is all over it. Tom, are you going to rename the site after Tuesday? What happens?
No. Okay. Let me give a little update on things. I'll give a tease. I'm not, because the brand is very well established at this point. And
now it's like 24 hours. It's in 24 hours you have that insight.
You're always looking ahead.
It's very keeping with my style of 30,000-foot view of things. Trying to put it all in context. This race in context, unburdened by what has been. No, but I'm not. I'm going to keep it, and I'll tell you that scoop was hot fire, baby, hot fire.
Yeah, for those of you who are unaware, it was the DOJ letter to Elon Musk's super PAC in Pennsylvania for their sweepstakes to win $1 million if you signed a petition, but you can't sign the petition unless you're registered to vote. Right?
Yep.
Is that exactly
and
how it goes? But the DOJ and now I think the Philadelphia Attorney General has said that is illegal. We'll see whether or not Musk continues to start throwing out $1 million a day.
So, come on over to 24 site, folks, 24sight.news. Got a new podcast, The Ground Game, focused on folks in the battleground states. I'll tell you, I really enjoyed from Pennsylvania, and we had him on. He's hard of hearing, so just take that into account, and he talks about that. But Joshua Smithley does some very good elections analytics on Twitter at blocked FREQ. So come on over to 24site.news, friends. Sign up. Hey, you know what? Support independent journalism. We got two independent journalists and one independent campaign mind on here. Okay, and none of us are getting played by Jeff Bezos.
Nope,
definitely not.
We are free.
Absolutely, we are totally free, and that is another great Substack publication. We love Substack now. We're a big Substack show. Michael Cohen, the book, Modern Political Campaigns. And a new edition coming out soon, right?
Yeah, I actually just wrapped the second edition pre-election. There's a couple of things I wanted to keep open, the last chapter and the epilogue. The last chapter last time was called The Permanent Campaign. The working title for the final chapter this time is The Last Campaign? ? We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but that's why I'm wearing black. It's bleak. The book will come out early next year. Really excited about that. I will be on a panel at Hopkins. I teach a course, digital political strategy, at Hopkins, and they've invited me to be on a post-election panel, the kickoff panel, which will be 2 days after, at the DC Bloomberg Center. And so feel free to hit that up. I will give you a link so you can share that with folks. But I'll be doing that with a couple of women who one of them studies and writes about gender issues. And the other one won a Pulitzer, a group Pulitzer at the Washington Post for her coverage of January 6th. So it should be, I'm sure, a shiny, happy panel. 2 days after the election, I don't know that we'll have a lot to ruminate on other than the initial results that we are anticipating, and we'll see. But it will be a really interesting conversation, and we'll be taking some questions from the audience as well. So feel free to join up with that. But hey, really appreciate, Justin, you convening the council.
Yes.
Before the election, our last time before the election. I'm sure that we'll have a lot of things to talk about afterwards. But you guys are doing great work. Tom, the work you've done with your startup is really fantastic. Everyone should absolutely subscribe. And Justin, you're like an old warrior here. And even though you're new to Substack, you've been doing this for a long time as well, in this space. And it's really good. You should really support independent journalism, particularly when trust in the media, quote unquote, is low. It's really given an opportunity for creative destruction in journalism, and you guys are creative demolition men. So well done, gentlemen.
We love it. Michael Cohen, Tom LoBianco, thank you very much, boys.
Thank you, sir.
And that will wrap it up for us today. No, it won't. Part 2 coming up. But still, I'm going to remind you. Well, first we're going to thank Michael Cohen. Go get his book, Modern Political Campaigns. Tom LoBianco, please go subscribe to him. He's doing great work. 24sight.com. Another great Substack publication. And he's hustling, man. He is out there. He's really, really working hard. And I'm so pumped that he kind of came into our fold over the last several months. A reminder, if you want to send me an email, it is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. And after every single episode, we remind you that you can support us at politicspoliticspolitics.com, takepoliticsseriously.com. Monthly, it's still the $3 club, $3 a week. You can go ahead and, support me, $12 a month. But then there's that annual. So the $3 club, right? That is, if you want to go monthly, the pitch has always been, if you would buy me a cup of coffee once a week, I'll give you 2 bonus hours of content. But with the $99 deal, you average that out per week, 60 cents. I'm not asking you to buy me a cup of coffee. I'm asking you to make me a cup of coffee in your own house. That's how cheap it is. And it's available until Election Day. So go ahead and take that. Then also there is the Titanic founding tier. These guys are so amazing. It was the old $10 tier. Now you got to front load it. You pay up front on it, and we still have just as many people. Thank you to everybody who has done it. If you want to hear your name on the end of the show, only one place to go. It is that Titanic tier, including Pro Idiot, Meemaw to the Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Jeremy. Oh, yeah, it's Adam. Chiller Tomatoes, Just Another Pilot, David, A.B. Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Will, Fat Tony Speed Jays from New York, Matt, Matthew, The Borge B, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Phil, Andrew, Devon, Edison, Paul, Jerry, my mom, Gloria Young, a dog named Checkers, Berkeley Steven, John, Zombie Doc, and of course, the one and only Sarah Genie. If you would like to join their ranks, takepoliticsseriously.com. You don't have to wait for our next episode. It's probably in your feed right now. Part 2, first ever 2-parter of the Politics program. We've had our head. Now we bring on our heart. It is Kevin Ryan, the Cosmic One, joins us to discuss the culture, the vibes. What do we feel in the air that are going to be motivating, especially those unaligned voters that are going to decide the election? That's all coming up. Till then, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more talk about politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss all 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.